pleasure to introduce our main speaker for tonight, Don L. from Bellingham, Washington.
Hi, everybody. I'm Don Landis. I'm an alcoholic. I want to thank Amy for that, somewhat adequate introduction. And be still my beating heart. No, thank you. I've enjoyed getting to talk to you today, and I want to thank everybody for being so kind and so welcoming. I want to thank what are we calling each other, friends these days? My friend Patrick for the kind invitation to come and participate. And what a great meeting, what great energy. And my friend Sean, who just knocked it out of the park, just such an enthusiastic talk, I love that kind of talk where you hear a guy and you go, I want to join AA all over again, and it's like, man, you just fired me. There was a little revival in your voice there. I was like, I'd be ready to testify. I thought they were going to fall out in the aisles. That was great. But I love it. I love enthusiastic AA because that's not what I thought, man. That's not what I thought recovery was going to be. You know what? No more fun. It's going to be gray, dark. It's going to rain every day, and it's going to be filled with stupid people. And, man, it felt like that sometimes when I was new. And that's really important to me. If you're in your first 30, 60, 90 days of recovery, can you please raise your hand? I just want to see where you're at. Oh, beautiful. Beautiful. That's awesome. And I'm sure this has been done already, but if it hasn't, I want to personally cordially welcome you to your new life. Cordially welcome you to Alcoholics Anonymous. Is there anybody here brave enough to be in their first 30 days? Anyone in the first 30 days? Wow. Awesome. Awesome. Appropriately sitting in the rear, that's where I would be, absolutely. You want to see everybody, you want to see as much of the room as possible. You got to protect yourself, be close to an exit at all times. I get it. You see, we know stuff about you if you're new, and you're like, know stuff about me? You haven't even met me. That's arrogant. No, trust me, if you're new, we know stuff about you. For instance, you're in your first 30 days, right? This hasn't been a good year. Wasn't a good year for us either, you know what I mean? Nobody gets here on a winning streak, Oh, gosh. Sobriety date, that helps. September 16th, 1991. I'm 32 years, 5 months, and 1 day sober. Yeah. And I know you're plotting for Alcoholics Anonymous, and as my tale of woe unravels here, you'll realize I had very little to do with the gift that's in my place today. Isn't that the good news about AA, right? You don't have to be bigger, smarter, faster, stronger than the other guy to make it in AA. Turns out the rubber meets the road on who's willing to take the actions dictated in the first 164 pages of the big book. Actions don't care why you take them. They're spiritual in nature. It's beyond our human understanding. You do spiritual things, you get spiritual results. It's that simple. I mean, let's be honest. How could I possibly take credit for any of the good in my life today? I mean, what did I really bring to the game of recovery in Alcoholics Anonymous when I'm new, right? Fierce resentment, belly full of fear, pitiful incomprehensibly demoralization, a cart full of the wreckage of my past. There's not a lot of raw material to work with. And I didn't know the good news about AA also is the worse you are, the more they like you. Isn't that something? I mean, I'm a complete failure at the game of life. They were like, we're so glad you're here. I'm like, this is bizarre. And God, I have no legitimate reason for being in AA and being an alcoholic. I have a story. We all have a story. Boy, I was committed to it when I got here. I have the story that I dragged into AA with me, which is very tragic. If I tell it just right, hopefully somebody will feel sorry for me. That was always my intention when I told that story. And that's about growing up in a house full of alcoholism and abuse, and my mom's alcoholism, and my dad, who got up when I was 2 years old, said he was going out for a pack of smokes, and I haven't seen him since. The poverty we grew up in, the violence, all. And you see the way it just rolls off the tongue? How easily I talk about it. You know why? Because it's practiced. Because by the time I'd come to AA, I'd been telling that story of victimization my whole life. My explanation for a poorly lived life, right? But it's an incomplete story, isn't it? And I'll tell you, man, if you want to stay a victim in Alcoholics Anonymous, none of my business, but I'll give you a little advice. If you do want to stay a victim, for God's sakes, of all the things, do not, under any conditions, get a sponsor. Man, they seem to delight in destroying victimization. That's what they did to me, man. I got a sponsor, and he took me kicking and screaming through the steps, and I got to the fourth and fifth step of the inventory process, and I did what the book talks about. I got down in black and white what really happened. And it was astounding to me the things I conveniently forgot on my way to AA. For example, I had a mother that raised 3 kids on her own, never took a dime of welfare, got up early, got us fed, got us clothed, got us off to school. Her reward for that was 2 buses to work, 2 buses home, to pick us up, to get us fed, to get us cleaned up, to get us our homework done. And her reward for that was she got to do it the next day, and the next week, and the next month, year after. This woman who I just described to you, who should be classified as a saint, I arrived in Alcoholics Anonymous filled with spite and rage and venom for that woman. They say alcoholism is a disease of perception. Boy, no greater example than that in my life. All the things I forgot on my way to AA, you know, those athletic coaches that took an interest in me, great teachers, great friends. In fact, what I found out through inventory is I had every opportunity to excel at the game of life any young man could have been afforded. And the reason I ended up in AA more dead than alive at age 31 had absolutely nothing to do with environment or family, those bad breaks or misunderstandings. And why that's important to me is I had to stop being a victim in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous to finally start getting the gift of this program. Because if God made a mistake in my life, this is the only one he made. He made my eyes looking outward instead of inward. All my life, I've had this gift where I look out on the world and the people in it, and with no effort on my part, I can tell you what you're doing wrong. And because I'm a giver, I share that with you. But where my life is concerned, where the quality of my life is based on the quality of my actions, I'm a blind man in the wilderness, absolutely no ability to look at myself. And that's what the inventory process, in particular the steps and the loving God I found here did for me. They got my eyes off of you and they put it where the game's being played, on me. And I'm so grateful. If I get nothing else out of this deal, being able to look in the mirror and know that I'm looking at the problem was new information. I'm living in the middle of a disaster, and I was the last one to know it. It's crazy. And you know, I didn't, pick up a fifth of Jack Daniels when I was 12 years old and go on a crime spree. That's not my story, I got drunk for the first time when I was 17. Not my first drink. I'm always impressed when somebody remembers their first drink. It was a hot August night. I mean, that's great. I'm sure I had a drink here and there. I'm talking about where you get enough alcohol on board in one setting to get there. Because alcohol, as much as anything, it transports me. It takes me to the land of I don't care. And that's where I want to live. I want my mail delivered there. I love the sense of ease and comfort that comes with taking a couple of drinks. I fall in love with the effect produced by alcohol. And my getting drunk for the first time story sounds the same as everybody else's, some variation on the same theme. We all sound the same. What do we sound like? I got drunk for the first time at 17, and I felt 10 feet tall. I felt smarter, braver, more confident. I could ask that pretty girl to dance. And we say it as though it's delusion, our fantasy. I'm not sure. Because I'll tell you what, you put a couple of drinks in me at 17, I am smarter, and I am funnier, and I am more confident, and I am tougher, and I am more of what I always hoped and wished I could be if I could just get me out of the way. See, alcohol is the jailer. It opens the door. It lets me out to play. The rough edges get smooth. I fall in love with the effect produced by alcohol. And on a primitive, caveman-like level, I say to myself, I want to always feel this way. But you can't. It's inappropriate. You can't start throwing drunks every day when you're 17. So you start already defending your right to drink, and you don't know that you're doing that. You think you're in some type of decision-making process. I don't understand. At 17, Look, I came to AA and I've heard everybody's story, and I'd always listen to guys talking. I like a good drunk-a-log, you know? And some guy'd be telling the blood and guts, you know, people died drunk-a-log. I'm on the edge of my seat, you know? And then he'd get to a point in his story and he'd go, and then I crossed the line. Dun, dun, dun. It sounded important, like when did I cross the line? And I know today what they're talking about, the line from controlled to uncontrolled drinking. So I thought, when did I cross the line? First car crash, last car crash. First time I went to jail, last time I went to jail. First time I made my mom cry behind my drinking, and the last time I made her cry. When did I cross the line? And you know what I figured out? I crossed the line when I would have told anybody that was listening, it's working for me. When I was 23 years old, if God Almighty had showed up in the bar I was drinking in and said, Don, the next one, the next drink, it's going to pass you into a region where there's no return through human aid. You're going to have to go to AA for the rest of your life or die a horrible alcoholic death. I'd have told God Almighty, you got the wrong guy, because it's working for me. From my toes to my head, from the inside out, it's allowing me to be anything I want to be, not feel anything I don't want to feel. I'm living in a synthetic existence of my own creation, and I love the effect produced by alcohol. And you know the rest of the story. You could tell it with me. I go through the 3 well-known stages of alcoholic drinking. Alcohol with no trouble. You know, where you put your hand on the Bible, I'll never stop doing this. I don't understand why everybody isn't doing this, right? And then phase 2, alcohol with trouble. Trouble. You know, the civilians, non-alcoholics, well-meaning people, doctors, lawyers, probation officers, think that trouble gets an alcoholic sober. Trouble don't get people like us sober. Hell, we build an addition onto the house of our life to make room for the trouble. Because my alcoholism keeps pace with the consequences of my drinking, doesn't it? Drinking drunk like me gets the 2 best friends I've ever had, right? Justification and rationalization. And what that means is I got to be able to go to jail, and upon my release, to face the family, the people that love me the most and want the best things in the world for me, I got to be able to look them in the eye with a smile on my face and laughingly say, well, everybody goes to jail once in a while. No, they don't. No, they don't. I'm telling you, I know a lot of people that are not in AA, but I know a lot of people that have never been to jail. I learned not to ask that question early in sobriety. You know, I'm on a job site. I meet some guy. We're getting to know each other. You know, what do you like? What music are you into? And I just throw it out there. You ever been to jail? And it always mortifies people. No. Of course I haven't been to jail. Why would you ask me that? Have you been to jail? Oh, no, not me, no. In the doctor's opinion, it says through repetition of failure, my alcoholic life seems the only normal one. You don't believe me? Let's take a test. Show of hands. How many people in this room have ever been handcuffed? Just raise your hand. Oh. I got to tell you, it's worse in Denver than most places. I know, you're proud of that. Listen to you. I can hear the pride. I want to point out a couple of things about asking that question in a room like this. When you ask that question, most people think this, well, that's a stupid question. Of course I've been handcuffed, right? Point number 2, you don't get that reaction at the Rotary Club, all right? Our alcoholic life seems the only normal one. But what happens, by the time I'm 25 years old, it's stage 3 of alcoholism, alcohol, all trouble. The big book refers to it as self-knowledge. No longer is it my girlfriend, my employer, my family, the doctor stitching me up, and I don't feel the needle. He thinks that's weird, right? No longer is it these well-meaning people talking to me about my drinking. Self-knowledge is not delivered that way. Self-knowledge is my own voice in my own head, dirty motel room, 2 o'clock in the morning, screaming in the room, and it's in my head, in my voice going, you're going to die if you don't do something about your drinking. And I got to tell you, at 25, it felt like an answer. At 25, it felt like a solution. I thought, oh my God, they've been talking to me for years about my drinking. Well, now I get it. Now I agree with you. It's going to be clear sailing from here. Tomorrow, I turn over a new leaf. Tomorrow, I'm done once and forever. I made the alcoholic declaration. I told everybody to listen. I'm not drinking anymore. Don't try to tempt me. I didn't go to AA, get a sponsor, work steps. That's for weak people. Why would I do that? I'm a man. You know what a man does when he discovers he has a problem with somebody? Just knock it off. Just knock it off. It's liquid in a bottle, for God's sakes. And I didn't come to you, and I didn't join your little tribe, and I got sober without you. Thank you very much. For 2 weeks. I'll tell you something about that 2 weeks, man. I think that 2 weeks is when the tentacles that are active alcoholism, I think that's when they really started to stretch out and really grab my family. And I didn't mean for that to happen. But my family's watching me after I make the declaration. What do they see, man? I'm showing up where I say I'm going to show up. The laundry starts getting done. I start going to work 5 days a week, which is new at that point in my story. And I'm getting all the affirmations, attaboys, and pat on the backs you think anybody would want who just made a life-changing decision. Oh, you're doing so well, Don. We're so proud of you, Don. It's all going to work out. And what I can't figure out, how come, if drinking's my problem, with every day that goes by since my last drunk, I'm getting more irritable, restless, and discontent. And that's right from the doctor's opinion, but I hadn't been to AA and I hadn't read your big book, and it talks about very clearly what happens to a guy like me when you separate me from alcohol with no other solution except abstinence. In short order, I'm irritable, restless, and discontent, unless what? I can again experience the ease and comfort that comes almost immediately with taking a couple of drinks. It doesn't even say I have to get drunk. It says the ease and comfort with taking a couple of drinks. The problem is I can't take a couple of drinks. And I don't know that I'm bodily different than my fellows. I don't know I'm in that bizarre 10% of the population where my body processes alcohol differently. The 90% of people, I've talked to normal people. The difference between a social drinker and an alcoholic. My brother-in-law is a social drinker. Knows his way around a cocktail. Trust me. I said to Larry, I go, Larry, what's the effect produced by alcohol when you drink? He said, well, you know, Don, sometimes I feel like having a drink. Doesn't have to be a big deal. Doesn't have to be a celebration or a tough day. Just want to have a drink. And I drink the drink. And it produces a feeling, I don't know, of relaxation. If there's music playing, I start to hear the beat a little bit better. I would overall classify it as pleasurable. In fact, it goes so well, I usually order a second drink. But I got to tell you, Don, somewhere in the middle of that second drink, I start to feel it. So I stop. No, you don't. Let's stop on the accelerator. It's about to get good. We're going somewhere. We're going to Tijuana, and we don't even know it yet. I mean, and I don't understand. He's in that 90% of people that's having a normal reaction to alcohol. I get a set of signals, too. I'm an alcoholic in that 10%. I get a set, what's really one signal, isn't it? More. More. And the problem is I only drink in my own body and think in my own mind, so I don't know that my experience is abnormal. How many times have I gone to the bar, I'm going to have a couple and go home, and I close the bar? It never feels like the phenomenon of craving, the allergic reaction. You know what it feels like? Guess I changed my mind. I change my mind all the time. I got to tell you that. You separate me from alcohol in very short order, I find myself irritable, restless, and discontent. That is the biggest understatement in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, by far. Because you don't feel that way, I'm irritable. I want to hurt you, you know. I'm restless. Maybe I'll go over there. No, I don't like them. Maybe I'll go over there. Nope, they don't like me. Maybe I'll get some ice cream. God, I'm getting fat. You know, it just doesn't matter what I'm doing, who I'm doing it with. I'm doing the wrong thing with the wrong people. I can't find my place in the world. I'm restless. I'm a dog circling his own tail, looking for the right place to lay down. Nope. And I'm discontent. Which sounds at first glance like unhappy. Oh no, discontent or content is way more powerful than happy. I can take happy, unhappy, right? That's life. That's my wife's mood. That's, you know, that's the weather. I mean, that comes and goes. That's the conveyor belt of life. But content or discontentment, we're talking about spiritual discontentment or spiritual contentment. It turns out when I'm spiritually discontent, when I'm in untreated alcoholism, I have a perfect inability to experience joy in a sober state, regardless of the facts of my life. Here's the bad news about that. You want to believe this is only when we're new. I've experienced it. I remember 8 years sober. It was kicking my rear end. I'm 8 years sober. I'm laying in bed, and I'm doing the spiritual math, right? I'm laying in bed going, well, I'm out of debt. All the warrants have been cleared up. I'm sober in AA for 8 years. I'm married to a beautiful woman. She says she's madly in love with me. Business is going good. I'm making more money than I ever thought I'd make. I'm active in a good home group. I'm sponsoring half of North America. They seem to like me. And then I think, if it was any better, I'd go in the backyard and hang myself because I can't feel any of it. Untreated alcoholism, drunk or sober, complete inability to experience joy. Now, here's the good news about being spiritually content. The same thing is only the mirror version of it. It doesn't matter what's going on in my life, I'm okay. And I've been spiritually content when I had a reversal of fortune, when I had a bad health diagnosis, when I had the rug pulled out from underneath me in my marriage, things like that. And you know what? I didn't get close to drinking, and I didn't lose my serenity because I was spiritually fit. Isn't that amazing? You know, I think it's about money, property, and prestige. It won't shield me from alcoholism. So now I'm into the point where I've got self-knowledge. I've got 2 weeks of sobriety under my belt. In my head, the very head you see in front of you, I don't think it's that much better today, decides I've been good. You ever done that? Brief period of recovery, and you think, I've been good. I think I'll reward myself with the very thing that's been tearing the skin off of my life. And I went out and got drunk after 2 weeks of sobriety of my own program, which really entails, like, don't drink and tell everybody how happy you are, right? And I was not drinking because I missed the taste of whiskey. I was not drinking to crash a car, go to jail, or break a heart. I was drinking to overcome a mental obsession beyond my human power. I had lost the power of choice where drinking was concerned, and I didn't know it, which means what? I'm bringing a knife to a gunfight. I'm overmatched. And what started for me was a 6-year odyssey from age 25 to 31 when I got sober. Geographics, trips to jails, crash cars, broken dreams, broken hearts, skin knuckles. Keep thinking to myself, this has got to be a bottom. This has got to be the end. And I found out every bottom has a trap door. I learned not to say, oh my God, it can't get any worse than this, because it does. And all the fun is gone and there's no safe direction. And I ended up 6 months before I got sober. I'd lost another job. I was flat on my back financially. I called up my sister in Simi Valley, California, and I played the victim card. I said, hey, Pat, they threw me away after all I did for them. Can I come stay at your house and get on my feet? Because when the going gets tough, the tough go home, you know. And my sister said, you can come stay in my house, but if you drink, you're out of my house. And I said, I won't drink, I promise. And when I said it, I meant it. And I drank every day in that house for 6 months till I get sober. I didn't understand there's no room for the truth where the game of alcoholism is played out. And if you don't know how you do that when they're watching you, well, maybe you're not a sneaky rat like I am. I got no problem drinking around your schedule. I'm unemployed, you know. What time do you go to work in the morning? 7 a.m., bars open. And you need to hear this, man. We're not drinking so I feel like I'm smarter, faster, stronger, better looking than I am. I'm doing oblivion drinking. I'm doing light switch drinking. I'm getting the whiskey on board hard enough and fast enough to just shut off my head so I can go into a blackout, so I can pass out in the room I'm mooching off of my family, to come 2 hours later to face the hideous four horsemen: terror, frustration, bewilderment, despair. It's like they sat on the end of the bed that I'm mooching from my family, waiting for me to come to, and then they talked to me in my voice, and they made those statements and asked those questions. You know, Don, you're a loser. You've taken every good thing that's ever come your way, and you've torn it to shreds, and now you're ripping your family off. How's it going to end for a guy like you, Don? Who are you going to hurt today, Don? And I don't know what you do with a head like that on a hangover morning, but I just took another pull off the bottle. And I'm telling you, I thought it was going to end that way. I was too big a coward to kill myself, but I couldn't see any safe direction. And I got an unemployment check about a week before I got sober, and I went up to my brother-in-law, Larry, and I said, hey, I got my check. I'd like to go cash it. Can I borrow your car? And he asked me a strange question. He said, Don, will you be coming back this time? And fair question, because I kind of borrowed his car a few times that summer and got out on little alcoholic vacations. We know what those are. But the 12 and 12 says my outstanding characteristic as an alcoholic is defiance. And when Larry said that to me, I got right in his face. I said, Larry, how dare you? You know, I'm having a tough time right now, Larry. I don't need your attitude. You know, the last time this happened, I apologized. And Larry, untreated Al-Anon that he was, felt terrible. He took the keys out, and I snatched the keys from this man who I'm mooching the room off of his house to walk out to get in his car. And I remember thinking, there better be gas in it. And I went down to the liquor store to cash my unemployment check, because that's where drunks like me cash their checks. And I had what the big book refers to as the thought that precedes the first drink. And for me, the thought's always the same. It's this: what's in a half pint of whiskey? Nobody ever went to jail behind a half pint of whiskey. I get the half pint, I drink it in the parking lot, the experiment goes well, I get another half pint. I think I can go visit those friends in the valley. I'll be back in 45 minutes. They'll never miss me. And I am gone. 3 days later, I'm driving up the hill to face that family I'd done over one more time. One more time, I've taken their hope, faith, trust, and torn it to shreds. And you need to understand, I love my family no less at that moment than I do right now, and I love my family tremendously. But I can't serve two masters. I only got time to serve one, and that's King Alcohol. You get between me and a drink, it's nothing personal. It's almost businesslike. I'm getting to the drink. I'm going around you. I'm going through you. I'm manipulating you. I'm telling you what you want to hear, but bet your bottom dollar I'm getting to the drink. Here's the problem. My family doesn't understand alcoholism. What's worse than that? I don't understand alcoholism, so I can't warn them. You see, I love my family. I don't want to live like an animal. I don't want to bring that kind of pain into your life. But I don't know what I'm up against, so I can't warn you. I can't look you in the eye and go, oh, you think this is the bad part? That I stole your car and disappeared for 3 days? You think that's the bad part? That ain't the bad part. Here's the bad part. I'm going to do it again. I'm going to look you in the eye. I'm going to cry. I'm going to ask for another chance, and you're going to believe me. You know why you're going to believe me? Because it's my truth in that moment. I mean it. I don't want to live this way. Don't you know I have a front row seat for the destruction of my life? You think this is how I wanted it to turn out? But I know it's going to happen again. I feel like I'm possessed. I feel like I'm a puppet at the end of the string. All I can say to you is save yourself. Get away from me, or I'm taking you down with me. But I can't warn them because I don't understand alcoholism. So what do I say? Sorry. I am so, so sorry. I don't mean to treat you this way. It got away from me. Can you see your way clear, giving me another chance? You know how much I love you. And I think we can all agree, in light of the pain and suffering I bring into the family dynamic, that mumbling apology is woefully inadequate. But it's all I got. It's all I got. I walk into a house that's been devastated by the disease of alcoholism to find out that in my absence, an argument ensued between my sister and brother-in-law. He wanted to report the car stolen. She negotiated it down to a missing persons report, and they've called the police upon my arrival, and they're on their way to do the follow-up work. Now, I have warrants for my arrest in 2 counties at this point, so I start yelling at my sister. I've got warrants. I'm going to jail. Thanks for nothing, because now it's her fault. I go outside to wait for the police because I don't want the interview to go on in front of the family. I don't know what I'm going to be saying, but we can all agree I shall be lying. And as I'm out front smoking a cigarette, here comes the black and white up the street. And on the side of the black and white, it says Canine Unit. And I think, great, they brought the dog. Like I'm in any shape to make a run for it. And I don't know if you've ever been up for 3 straight days drinking and doing outside issues, but the police usually aren't who you want to talk to. Because, man, they get out, they're trained professionals. They start asking you those hard, tough questions like, where were you? And everything I remember is illegal, so I'm lying, and he's looking at my eyes really hard, and that makes me nervous, so I break his gaze, and now he breaks with me, so now we're interviewing and talking, and I don't feel good. My hands are wet. I'm about to fall out. I just want to divert his attention. I see the dog in the back seat, and I go, hey, is that your partner? And without missing a beat, he goes, well, yes, it is. Walks over, opens the door, and this dog gets out, German Shepherd. Not a hair out of place. Like a Rin Tin Tin reincarnate. Beautiful dog. And with no prompting on my part, he started to relay facts to me about the dog's life. The dog is past mandatory retirement. They haven't retired him yet. He's just too good. The dog has participated in more arrests than any dog in the history of Ventura County. The dog has participated in more arrests and rescues than any dog in the history of Ventura or Los Angeles County. This dog was so phenomenal that the officers took a collection out of pocket to send him over to Europe for international competition where he kicked butt on German Shepherds. Right? I'm looking at the dog, and I mean, you gotta give. I said, "That's a phenomenal dog you have there, sir." And this thought flew in the back of my mind. The kind of thought, the minute you think it, you know it's the truth. You don't want it to be true, but you know it's the truth. And what the truth was, is this dog had done significantly more with his life than I had done with mine. I hated that dog. I didn't get arrested. The cop finished up the interview, took off. I walked back into a house that's been devastated by alcoholism, and my sister wants me gone. She had every right. Years later, after I got sober, I asked her, I said, you know, when you were throwing me out of your house that day, I noticed you couldn't look me in the eye. You never took your eyes off of the floor. Why is that? And she said, oh, it's simple. I didn't want you to lie to my face one more time. That's what I bring into the family dynamic. My sister said, look, I know you're going to die and I can't help you anymore, but you can't die here. You're tearing us apart. You got to go. And if I had any real love for another human being, if I had a real partnership with any other human being, I'd have said, you're right. I would have got my gear and cleared out. But I'm an alcoholic and I'm not too proud to beg. And I gave an Academy Award-worthy performance and turned on the waterworks and begged for another chance. And in that long stream of, you can't throw me away, I'm so sick, I'll go out there and I'll die. You don't want me to die, I need a couple of days. You gotta give me a couple of days. And she wasn't buying it, and I just over-demonstrated. I go, I'll go to AA and everything. So is it odd or is it God? Because I'll tell you what, I wasn't thinking about AA the day before I got here. And I want to be clear, my family did not believe I was going to go to AA. My first week in AA, my sister drove me to AA and picked me up from AA. How it makes you feel when you look the way I look and you get in your older sister's compact car at the end of an evening of Alcoholics Anonymous. She's driving you back to her place, her 31-year-old loser brother. So, Donald, what'd you learn in AA tonight? I mean, it's just not a good look. I can't tell you about my first night in AA. I was detoxing out of my mind. I don't remember anything about it. But I remember my second night in AA because I hit the lottery. I didn't know there's a lottery in AA. We don't talk about it a lot, but looking back, it's very obvious that that's the night my life changed. And I didn't know it. Like every alcoholic, you know, the most important thing in the world happens to me, and I missed it. If God had said, you just had the most important moment of your life, I'd have said, what happened? I missed it. What? But here's what happened. I attended the 6 o'clock meeting at the Simi Valley Alano Club. It's an hour and a half long, ends at 7:30, half an hour break. Then the 8 o'clock meeting was going to start. I'm hanging out between those meetings, and I did not look that night the way I look tonight. I mean, I got hair down the middle of my back, and it's filthy because I don't shower anymore. I'm standing in my wardrobe, and it's filthy. I'm wearing my sunglasses at night. I got my arms folded across my chest, and I'm rocking back and forth, surveilling the room, and I got my tough guy radar out. But I'm not doing this because I'm a tough guy. I'm doing this because every molecule in my body is screaming for a drink of alcohol. I'm coming up on 48 hours without alcohol, and I'm detoxing out of my brains, and I feel like I'm going to explode from the inside out. The big book says the main problem of the alcoholic resides mainly in his mind rather than his body. And my mind started talking to me. Look at them, Don. Look at them. They're clean and they're happy and they're not talking to you. You know why they don't want you here? AA, why do you do this to us, Don? Why do you do it? Oh, you're quitting drinking again? How many times you quit, Don? 100? What happens? You always drink again. Don, you know you're going to drink. We know you're going to drink. Why don't we get out of here and let's go get drunk? Because you know it's going to happen anyway. Why do you put us through this? You put us through all that pain. Remember that time you got 3 months, but you drank anyway, and you always drink. So you're going to do it. You're going to go through all that pain just to drink again. Here's an idea, Scooter. Let's bypass the pain. Let's get out of here, and let's go get drunk. And I'm leaving AA on my second night of recovery, and I'm going to go get drunk, and it's going to cost me everything. It's going to cost me the love of the last relative that'll have anything to do with me. It's going to cost me my place where I'm living. And ultimately, it's going to cost me my life. You know, I got to tell you, small price to pay. If you can make the madness in my head stop for a couple hours, small price to pay. And I know that out of my experience, I've always been willing to pay that price. And I caught a break. Because that fateful night, standing over in the corner with two members of Alcoholics Anonymous named Lou and Mark. And it's the most important moment of my life. Whether I live or die is about to be decided in the next few minutes. But for Lou and Mark, it was Tuesday. And these two good men were where they were every Tuesday night between the 6 o'clock and the 8 o'clock meeting of the Simi Valley Alano Club. They hung out. They drank that AA coffee. They told those AA war stories. And more importantly, they had their eyes trained on the room and they had their eyes trained on the door. And they were looking for men to 12-step. And the way they tell the story is they saw me. And Lou looked at Mark and said, whoa. And Mark looked at Lou and went, yeah. And they took an action I think is the most important action we'll ever have the honor and privilege of taking in AA. These two good men walked 30 feet across a clubhouse to cordially welcome a man to AA who was dying from the disease of alcoholism. And they did it in the kind, unassuming way we're taught to do it. Hi, I'm Lou. This is Mark. We don't think we've met you. Why don't you come sit with us? I'm here to tell you that stuff saves lives. It saved mine. Why do I think it's so important? 30 feet for Lou and Mark. For me, it's 1,000,000 miles. Don't you know what I've done, who I've hurt, where I've been? Don't you understand I can't get my eyes off of my shoes? You think I'm going to work the room, introduce myself, ask for numbers? If you think any of that crap's happening, I hope you packed a lunch because you got a long wait. My tank is on empty. My scorecard reads 0. I'm not going to go get drunk because AA doesn't work or God doesn't exist or steps aren't a miracle. I'm the guy the book talks about. I've lost the power of choice where drink is concerned. We're always surprised when new people drink. Not me. I got no recovery. You think because I'm in the warm bosom of your recovery, it spells any kind of relief for me? No, Mark and Lou understood that they would have to carry the message to the alcoholic that still suffers. And Mark sat down with me at a table, and Lou continued to stand, and he clapped me right in the middle of the back, and he said, Don, this is Mark. He'll be your sponsor. And he walked away. And in that moment, my life changed, and I didn't know it. But here's what happened, without my permission. I got an active member of Alcoholics Anonymous as a sponsor, which means what? He's got a home group. He's got commitments at the home group. He works with other men. He's in the literature. He's actively living the steps in his life. He never says no to an AA request. He used to say, to the degree I'm willing to be inconvenienced for my fellow alcoholic, that's the true degree I walk with God. So he's a spiritual zealot. I got that on my hands. He's got all that stuff in his place. And I didn't understand that when you get a sponsor, you even inherit all their friends. I want to be clear. When you're new, this does not feel like an asset. You know, what it feels like is there's a bunch of strangers all up in my business. Why am I so fascinating to you people, you know? Oh, Don, we're expecting a miracle. You should be expecting a head wound. Back off there, you know? But think about it this way. Where else but AA? I'm at the low point of my existence. I've burned every bridge. I've broken every heart. I've let down everybody. And I come to AA. And in a very short amount of time, I meet all of you. and you learn everything there is to know about me, good and bad, yet you still love me and accept me and pull for me. Where are you going to get that kind of compassion on the planet if you're an alcoholic? No other place than a magic place called Alcoholics Anonymous. And you think it'd be a problem. The job of the sponsor, I found out, is he's got all these spiritual tools at his disposal. And what he's supposed to do is take the spiritual tools and lay them at the feet of the newcomer for his inspection, saying, this is what I do, this is what's worked for me, this is what we do in AA, and I don't know how to do any of it. It might as well have been written in Chinese. I don't understand what you're talking about, and you think that's a problem. It's not. Listen, you'll hear this in AA. If you're new, you'll hear this at every meal, make you crazy. Sobriety's a gift, sobriety's a gift, sobriety's a gift. What they won't tell you, it's a gift, but it's a gift that comes unassembled. Not a problem. Welcome to Alcoholics Anonymous. You are sitting in a room in the middle of the master mechanics of Alcoholics Anonymous. And the only thing they want to do for you is show you how to put your gift together, the way somebody showed them how to put their gift together. And that's what my sponsor did for me. He showed me how to put my gift together. And we got busy in Alcoholics Anonymous. And I should have known from the beginning I never had a relationship like this. I'm a big guy. I'm an ex-tough guy. I'm a nonconformist. I know this is shocking, but I'm like every other guy that comes into AA. You know, you want people to understand what they're dealing with. I need to tell you right off the bat, I don't like authority. Oh, we've never heard that before in AA. And, no, it gets worse. And, and my sponsor, man, right from the beginning, he just didn't listen to any of my silliness. He got on a meeting directory. And he said, he said that these were the meetings I'd be going to in AA as he was circling them. And I know that he said, these are the meetings you'll be going to in AA. And I remember thinking, that's a lot of circling. And at one point he stopped circling. He said, oh, by the way, are you working? I said, no, I'm currently unemployed. More circling, more circling. I'll tell you what was weird about that too. Tell me how weird this response is. I tell my new sponsor, I don't even know what a sponsor is. First meeting with the guy. I tell him I'm unemployed. You know what he said? Oh, that's great. That's a weird reaction to find out about somebody. My God, if you met somebody out in the world and you said, hey, what do you do for a living? Well, I'm currently unemployed. You'd be embarrassed. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sure you'll get a job soon. Good luck on you, In AA, we go, oh, great. You can go to more meetings. Nothing between you and sobriety. He was thrilled I was unemployed. But I wanted to talk about my big problems. I'm like, buddy, I got warrants for my arrest in 2 counties. I haven't worked in a year. I don't have a car. I'm living at my sister's house. I owe the IRS $80,000. I mean, come on. I mean, what am I going to do? He goes, oh, you think those are your problems? I go, yeah, I think they're fairly significant. He goes, you're wrong, Don. You only got one problem. He goes, that's that you suffer from a thing called alcoholism. That means you got something that wants to kill you slowly and take a large bite out of anyone that has the misfortune of caring about you. And we'll let you know when these other things are a problem. And what I heard was I didn't have to pay back the IRS. Found out I was wrong. But that's the thing. Whatever you got, bring it to AA. Whatever trouble you got, bring it here. You won't impress us. You won't impress us. We've seen every kind of trouble imaginable. And we will find value in your trouble. They did it for me. I mean, my sponsor, he never pulled any punches. He didn't give me any Pollyannic pep talk. He didn't say, there, little alcoholic. Now that you're home, everything will work out. When he found out I owed the IRS 80 grand, he went, woo, that's a lot of money. He said, man, you may be broke forever. Goes, but you'll be sober. But he took that little bit of information and he took it and put it into service in Alcoholics Anonymous immediately. For the next couple of years, if any newcomer had the audacity to talk to my sponsor about his little $1,000 IRS debt, this would be my sponsor. Hold that thought, Jimmy. Hey, Don, you got a minute? And I'd walk over all innocently and he'd go, Don, tell Jimmy how much you owe the IRS. And I'd look at Jimmy, I go, I owe the IRS $80,000. And Jimmy would go, Jesus. My sponsor would laugh, and Jimmy would feel better. And I'd say, well, I just want to be of service. And I learned to laugh at my trouble in Alcoholics Anonymous because you laughed at your trouble. Your example, your grace, your dignity, with trouble alive in your life, and you laughing about it taught me that we all have trouble. My sponsor took me through 3 sides of the triangle simultaneously: unity, service, and recovery, right? And he did it using the ancient spirit of the, there's a principle, ancient in stature, that is used in AA. We don't talk about it a lot, but it changes lives. And it's the principle of the invitation. You see, not just my sponsor, but all the men and women of Alcoholics Anonymous. See, AA, we're all inclusive, right? We all go, or none of us go. So they invited me from day one. He invited me to all your meetings, your business meetings. I remember going, why would you want me in your business meeting? I'm 8 days sober. Oh, I was wrong. If you're new, soon as you can get to a business meeting, go. You don't want to miss it. Man, I was in there having my donut, minding my own business. I saw 2 old-timers start screaming at each other. I mean, I'm chomping on my donut. I'm leaning forward. I mean, I know that tone. I know what's going to happen. I'm wondering who's going to punch who first. And they chill it out. They separate them. They said that they're giving each other the FU eyes across the room. I'm like, oh, this is awesome, And I go outside because I want to have a good view of them coming out because I know they're going to throw down. And they come out there arm in arm laughing. Oh, you really got me going in there, you son of a gun. Oh. I'm like, what planet have I landed on? But I liked it. I liked the excitement, and you invited me into your car, and you invited me to your meetings, you invited me to your barbecues. You invited me to do commitments in Alcoholics Anonymous. And my sponsor, with this ancient principle of invitation, left me. The thing about invitation is it leaves the sufferer with some degree of dignity and the self-esteem of the right kind. My sponsor would roll up on me, and he'd say, listen, we're putting an ad hoc committee together about corrections. Seems like you have a lot of experience in jails. We'd really like your opinion. And I'd think to myself, my ego would wake up and I'd go, boy, it looks like I got to AA just in the nick of time, really do some good here. Or he'd roll up on me and he'd say, hey, kid, tomorrow night I got to set up this meeting. I'd really appreciate your help. And I think at the low point of my existence, somebody needs my help. And I'd say, sure, sponsor, anything for you. And I'd show up and we'd set up some little podunk meeting. And at the end of that, he'd shake my hands and he'd look me in the eye and he'd say, thanks, kid, I couldn't do it without you. I don't know about you, man, but alcoholism is a disease of separation and isolation. And through all the years of my drinking, I felt like at some point somebody put a glass wall between me and the rest of the world. And I ended up my hands against the wall and my nose pressed against it. And I could see the good people. I could see them living their life. I could see them happy. And I knew I was part of it once. I was haunted by the memory of when I was a part of it, and I knew I would never have it again. And I was not part of the world. And I became invisible. And I joined AA. And you invited me everywhere to everything. And I showed up, and you thanked me like I was the most important guy in the room. And it conspired to leave me with a feeling of nothing less than this, that you see me. And that's the birth of hope. That's where you have this feeling, this small glancing thought at the low point of your existence. Maybe it's not over yet. Maybe I got a little strength left in me yet. Maybe I'm wrong about this AA thing. And I continue to walk. And I had slow-briety, not sobriety. I had slow-briety. I mean, I was 2 years sober. I'm still living at my sister's house. But things had changed. Because in that 2 years, my sponsor had me do things. And my sponsor was not a guy we were all in the book, splitting the atom, doing it perfectly from the book. But at the same time, he would ignore the book in a minute if he thought it would help me. He rolled up on me. I hadn't even written my inventory yet. I'm like 3 months sober. And he goes, hey, what are you doing in that house you're getting sober in to say thank you? I go, well, I'm not drinking. He said, that's mighty big of you. He goes, go home tonight and ask your sister if there's anything you can do for her. I said, all right, seemed innocent. I went home that night and I said, listen, my sponsor wants to know. I got to tell you, my sister loved my sponsor. When she found out he was mean to me, oh, she lit up like Christmas. You know what I mean? she'd go, oh, he called you a little boy in a man's body? That's wonderful. What else did he say? Oh, she loved him. So I asked my sister, my sponsor, is there anything? And she doesn't miss a beat. She goes, well, you can paint my house. I said, your whole house? And she said, yeah. I go, I got to talk to my sponsor. And, so I find my sponsor the next night. I go, man, this crazy woman wants me to paint her 2-story, 3,800 square foot house. And he goes, is she buying the paint? I go, I assume so. And he goes, you got off easy. Paint her house. And he'd do this. He'd get the last word in real dismissively. Paint her house. And he walks away. I see his bald head going off in the distance. And I yelled at his bald head this time. I said, hey, I thought this program was suggested. That's a mistake. Just saying. I didn't know he could move like that because he was like back in my personal space looking up at me. I'm looking down on him, and he's got that bony finger, and he goes, listen. He goes, you're so sick that everything I ask you to do, I want you to assume it's a direction, and we'll let you know when you've passed into the suggestion phase of the program. So now I'm painting her house, right? And I'm bitter. I'm thinking, this is what you get. This is what you get. You're a craphead alcoholic brother. This is what you get, slave labor. I did it to myself. But what I didn't see coming was the longer I was in that project and the further I got along, I felt a little bit better about things. Because I'd been talking to my sponsor about the wall between me and my sister, how she loved me, she was glad I was sober, but there was a wall between us. We could only be in the same room for so long, breathing the same air, and then we would get uncomfortable. We'd have to go our separate ways. And the longer I got into that project, it seemed like I could be in the room with her for a little longer, talk to her for a little longer. And I'll tell you, when I got done painting her house, man, we weren't even Steven, but I'll tell you what, Alcoholics Anonymous and the amends process, out of order in this case, gave me back a relationship with one of the most important people I ever had in my life. And we talk on a daily basis today, man. That's 32 years later. And I'll tell you, you know, I continue to walk, I continue to make these amends, and I was taught very specifically how to make my amends, which is no ambushes. And my sponsor said, you can't ambush them because we're handcuffed. And I said, what are we handcuffed by? He goes, your perception of reality. He goes, if you drank as much whiskey as you claim to have drank, who knows what really happened? He goes, no, you're going to call up people. You're going to make an appointment. If they don't know you're in AA, you're going to let them know you joined AA, and part of what you do is make restitution for harms done, and you think you owe them. You think you've harmed them. And you would like to discuss with them what you could do, if anything, to make that right. And encourage them, create an atmosphere of safety and honesty and trust, and tell them how important it is that you hear from them the truth about how you affected them. Because they won't tell you the truth, Don, unless you create that for them. And I thought, this is a really bad idea. But he was right, because I would have been like the guy that shows up at his Aunt Sally's house with no notice, right? Oh, Donald, what are you doing here? Well, I can't see my favorite aunt. Oh, it's good to see you. You're still going to the A&A, son. Oh, yeah, I still am, Aunt Sally, doing good, sober, quite a while now. Oh, that's a blessing. Listen, Aunt Sally, I'm here to, I know I did some terrible things in the past. I'm just here to try to make it right. And if there's anything I can do to make it right, you let me know what I need to do. And, if there's something I need to do, I want to know. And please, if you could, let me know how my behavior affected you. Aunt Sally doesn't know anything about AA. She doesn't know why we do this stuff. And she's had a front row seat for the destruction of my life. And I'm sober for the first time in what, forever? You think she's going to tell me the truth? Or is she going to say something like this? Oh, baby, baby, baby. We've just always wanted what's best for you. Don't worry about that money. Don't worry about what you owe me. You just stay sober. That's all we've ever wanted for you. And as a self-centered alcoholic, grandiose in nature, this is what I think. Woo! That was close, and I don't understand. I just screwed myself out of one of the biggest gifts we'll ever get out of the steps. It's a little something we prize very highly in AA. It's called the truth. Turns out I can't get there without the people's permission and the people's help that I hurt, because I'm only armed with my perception of what happened. And I found that out when I made amends to my sister, formal amends. And I talked to her about stealing her car and stealing her money and breaking her heart and being a craphead absentee brother. And I asked her, is this how I affected you? Because I think this is where I've harmed you. And she goes, you think this is how you hurt me? And I go, yeah, it feels accurate to me. And she said, you couldn't be more wrong. And then she continued, you don't know what it's like. You don't know what it's like to love somebody as much as I love you. And I'm watching you die. And when I ask you how you're doing, you have that stupid grin on your face and you say, couldn't be better. You don't know what it's like. When the phone rings in my house after 10 o'clock at night, I know it's them calling me to tell me I'm never going to see my baby brother again. You don't know what it's like. And as I watched her eyes filled with tears, as I watched the tears roll down her cheeks, as I watched her relive the horrors of loving an alcoholic who conspired to leave me with a feeling, I never want to see that look on another human being's face and know without a doubt I'm the guy that put it there. The amends are amazing, man. You'll go in one way, you'll come out another. There's no lag time. You come out different. And God's right in the middle of that mix. And I worked the steps and I got free and I got exactly what the program promises, you know? It doesn't promise me I'm going to be rich or drive the big iron or have a great career. It promises me what? A spiritual awakening. When I'm new and I see that promise, I go, and? Because it seems like a lot of effort to get a spiritual awakening. How could I have realized the most valuable thing I have in my life is I've had a spiritual awakening? How would I realize that it's more valuable than any of the gold or silver that's been placed in my life in my recovery? And the thing about the spiritual awakening, and this is where one day at a time comes in, it's not permanent. One day at a time, I have to maintain the spiritual awakening I've been given through the steps. But it is exactly what it says. It's a spiritual awakening, which means I was spiritually asleep. To what? To the fact that there's something that runs this thing and it wants good things for us, and that power is available to me right now. I didn't know that. It changed my life. I got married in sobriety. I got a 27-year sober marriage. I've been all over the world. I've had every accolade and every gift and any blessing any human being could want to have. I live in a beautiful place with a beautiful woman with a beautiful dog. It's like a fairy tale. But it's a complete story, right? I've had every challenge. I've had health issues and sex issues and marriage issues and money issues because it's a conveyor belt of life, right? Good, bad, happy, sad. It's on a circle. It just keeps coming around, bringing us the same stuff. And I did what you taught me. You know what you told me? Bring it to AA. Good, bad, happy, or sad. We need it all. Bring your experience, strength, and hope. Be willing to look bad to eventually look good. We're more interested in your struggles than your victories. What an amazing place where my challenges are more valuable to other people than my successes. And so no matter what's happened in my life for 32 years, I've come and I've shared it with me. And you know what you've done? You've never thrown me away. We are the original Me Too moment, right? That's not new. That's AA for over 87 years, man. Where I'm sitting there with my guts hanging out, telling somebody something I think I can't believe I did at 14 years sober, at 18 years sober, at 22 years sober. You know, those years where I should be better than this, you know, and you're telling your sponsor, you know what, your sponsor doesn't throw you away. You know what he says? Me too. And he tells you a story about his imperfection. He tells you a story about his humanity. You know, we bring our trouble here and our troubles are halved. We bring our success here and our success is doubled. We live out loud and proud in Alcoholics Anonymous, but it's not all fun and games, man. 2022 was an interesting year for me. It's like Charles Dickens' A Tale of Two Cities, man. It starts off, it says, it was the best of times, it was the worst of times. And that was 2022. February of 2022, my wife Eileen and I, man, we're in Maui for 10 days. I want to be very clear. We're not go to Maui for 10 days, people. It was a big honking deal. And it was awesome. It was a great vacation. And we're old and wrinkled now, but we've been in love forever. But for 10 days, man, we were young again. For 10 days, we're swimming in the ocean. For 10 days, we're eating mangoes on the beach. For 10 days, we're eating fish tacos at night, talking about AA, talking about how lucky we are that we found each other, that God's been so good to us. And there wasn't a cloud in the sky, and I just felt blessed and protected and thought I was the luckiest dog in the yard. A month later, in March, we're back in town. My wife goes in for a normal procedure just to check stuff out. A week later, I'm sitting in an oncologist's office, right? And I hear the things that a man that loves a woman like good poetry never wants to hear. Tumor, well-defined, stage 3 rectal cancer. And whatever problems I woke up with that morning suddenly became Teflon coated and slid away from me. And I was left with the problem. And I was terrified. I'm almost embarrassed to tell you I was well over 30 years sober, And I felt a fear I hadn't felt since I was new. What will I do without her? She's my everything. I don't know if I want to be here if this doesn't work out. She means the world to me. It was all about me, because fear always is. And I do what I've been taught to do. I called my sponsor in tears. I kept it together in front of my wife because she got the news and started crying, and the voice in my head screaming, you got to be strong for her, and I felt so weak. I felt so inadequate, and I felt so spiritually phony because I was so scared. And I called my sponsor for a pep talk, and he didn't give me a pep talk. He said, I am so sorry to hear this. And he said something he normally doesn't say to me. He goes, it's a big deal, kid. You need to pay attention. He goes, I think you need to take this to the top. Get off the phone with me and pray and meditate, and then call me back. And he got off the phone. And I got quiet, and I started to pray, and I told God what was on my heart. I said, God, you know what I want, so I'm not going to ask for it. And I've been taught in AA not to pray for outcome. But it's hard, God. It's easy when it's your football teams in the Super Bowl. It's easy when it's that promotion at work. This is a woman I love. It's so hard not to pray for outcome, God. But I don't know what your will is for me, and I don't know what it is for Eileen. And then I meditated, and I was asking God for an answer. And I'm so scared. And through this meditation, I get quiet, and this voice says in my head, it says, be grateful. Like, be grateful for what? And I go back into meditation 5 minutes later, same voice, gentle but clear, be grateful. And now there's a slideshow. And it's the day I met Eileen, and 27 years of spending a marriage with her. The good times, the bad times, the funny times, the struggles, the successes. I'm getting snapshot after snapshot, watching our life together unfurl behind me. And the fear that I had is being replaced as I watch this by a gratitude for what God's given us and all the time that we've had. And I finish with that, and I realize how lucky I am and how selfish to want more, to demand more when he's been so good to me. And I got back into prayer, and I said to God, I said, you know, God, I'm not scared anymore, and I'm grateful. Thank you, thank you, thank you for every minute you've given me and Eileen. Thank you. You know I want more, but if there is no more, I'll respect that because you've been so good to us. You've been so kind to us. You've been so loving to us. And I want to know that no matter what happens, you won't lose me. You won't lose me, Dad. I love you. And thank you so much. And please give me the strength. And I'll tell you, we went through the things that people go through when they're going through cancer treatment. And I got to tell you, my wife was the spiritual warrior I expected her to be. And I'd like to tell, here's the truth. It was the easiest thing I've ever done in my life, personally. Right? Worked full time, took care of everything in the house, did all the shopping, took her to every single appointment, never missed one. Easiest thing I've ever done in my life. That ain't me, that's God. I had a strength that wasn't my own. I had a peace that wasn't my own, and I had a faith that wasn't my own. And it wasn't a faith that I would get what I want. It was a faith that it was the way it would go. Because there's people in this room that have lost people to cancer that I don't believe God has a roulette wheel. I don't believe that he picked Eileen and didn't pick your loved one. Because Eileen has been over a year cancer-free to this moment, and she's doing great. But we were lucky. We were lucky. And I thought a lot about that after it happened, you know. I thought a lot about the fear I was in, and I thought a lot about the faith, and I thought, you know, this is really nothing more. And it's so apropos we're talking about the second step at this meeting. It's the second month of the year. Came to believe that the power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. And that's about the insanity of taking that first drink over and over again, expecting different results. But it expands like all the other spiritual principles in AA. And what it's about for me today is, this is my second step dilemma that I have faced from time to time through my whole sobriety. And I faced it when my wife was diagnosed with cancer. It's a second step dilemma, and it sounds like this. Why do I think this is too big for God? And I've experienced it from time to time my entire sobriety. Yet, I'm the guy that will tell you God can make a baby smile, make a puppy dog's tail wag, and make a butterfly float in the air like magic. I know he can do this, but my problems are important. My problems are big. Why do I think it's too big for God? And that's the essence of the second step for me. You see, my second step experience isn't read from a book. My second step experience is the men and women of Alcoholics Anonymous. I came to believe because of your experience. Because every single one of you talked about the good life you had because of AA, the good life that you found here, how things had been reversed, how your new life didn't resemble your old life at all. And every single one of you, in your own words, gave the credit to this power we talk about endlessly. Some of you called it God. Some of you called it higher power. Some of you called it creative intelligence. But whatever you called it, we were all talking about the same thing. And I knew you were telling the truth. And you've been my second step and always have been. I come back to AA to hear your stories of redemption. I come back to AA to hear your stories of faith. I come back to AA to hear your stories of resurrection. And I'll tell you, I've never had it so good. I hope we stay sober forever. Thanks for listening.